Hello and welcome to another tutorial from MoICT. In this tutorial, we're going to be doing something slightly different. We're going to be creating a data analysis project using Python, Pandas and Matplotlib. So what I've done here is I've created a user interface inside of the terminal using Python and Pandas. So the data set that we're working on, if I can show you quickly. Okay, so this is the data file that we're currently using for this project. Inside of here, you can see that I have the columns here basically says produce, and then you have got the dates there. So it goes from produce to 01/01/2023 to 09/01/2023. So it's giving you a 9-day forecast of the sales. Create a terminal user interface for a program that basically gives the user a bunch of options on what to do. So the first option here basically shows you the entire data set. Right, so this is the unsorted data set here, so you can see all the data, including all the dates. Right, and the second option is going to sort the data set in a ascending order with the name. Right, so if I do, so you can see here now that it has sorted the data type, data set. Sorry, so data set is now going from apple, avocado, banana, so from A to W right here. Third option is the descending order. So it shows the watermelon first, tomato, strawberry, pineapple, and then so on, and then apple and avocados at the bottom. After that, we got the option to show only all the names for the products that are available inside the data set. So I'll pick 4. So it tells me that these are the data it found. So you got banana, apple, kiwi, so on and so forth. We're going to need this one to basically search through the list or search the data set, right? And then second option, the fifth option is going to give you the list down all the dates. So if I pick 5 here, so these are all the dates that are available, right, in the data set. So this way the user doesn't make mistakes of going for the dates that are not in the data set. And we're also going to be providing a sort of like a solution for if the user does enter a wrong date, then it should just say that you entered that date doesn't exist, and then we can move on from that. Sixth option is to search for a range of dates. So now we know what range of dates there are. So I can pick the fifth option here. Sixth option. And then here it asks you to enter a range of dates that you want to search for, enter the start date. So we need to start at some point, right? So I'm going to pick the third. So it says 03, let's try 02/2023, right? So right now that date doesn't exist. So if I press enter, it tells me with an icon there, it says that that date is not valid. Let's try again. Try 03/01/2023. Okay, and now it shows me that that date is valid. Okay, and now we need to set a enter date. So basically at the moment we have got 03/01/2023. So if I by mistake say, for example, enter the date 01/2023, which is before that date, right? So the start date must be less than the end date, right? So if I press that, and then it basically says end date cannot be the same or before the start date, enter the start date again. So we need to do that. 01/2023, and then we go to say 05/01/2023 here. Okay, and I press enter. So basically it will find all the dates for me here, right? So it shows me the dates between 03 and 05, and it also does a total for those dates for the products, right? And then at the same time we have a little chart that gets created here, so for each date, and then also the total, and he also has the legends for each item that is in there. Okay, and for this tutorial I'm going to show you 2 ways to do a chart. So this one here, I'm using a pandas transpose to create a chart, but then we'll also show you how to do a chart without using pandas transpose, and in that case the dates will be the legends and the items will be listed down here. Okay, so after that one, we've gone through option 6. Now let's do option 7. So here I am searching for an item name and the date range. Okay, so let's say for example I'm looking for pineapple. Okay, so then it says pineapple is found. If you enter a wrong name, it will basically say the item is not found in there. Okay, then let's go with 01/01/2023 to 02/01/2023. So I just need to know how many pineapples were sold between these 2 dates. Okay, so once I press enter on that one, it basically shows me that there's the pineapple there, this date, this date, and then the total is right here. Okay, so if I go back to the program, you can see that the pineapple comes back with these 2 dates, and then the total is getting added for the 2 dates as well. So I can pretty much do this for every other fruits or vegetables that's available inside of this list. Number 8 is show the total for each item in a chart, right? So if I pick number 8 here, so it basically shows me the total of each item in the chart here, right? And this is just being calculated total, so you can see the numbers are slightly larger, right? So then I can see the total for everything from 01 to 09. Right, and then he also says 9 is show the average sale of each item. So how we're just going to calculate the average of each item that's been sold from 01 to 09. Okay, so if I press number 9, right, so this will show me the average of each item that's been sold. So banana, apple, orange, etc. So all of this stuff that we get from the list, right? So basically taking the sale from each column of the dates, and then it's calculating an average or the mean using Pandas framework. Okay, and lastly, we have got the show the chart for the entire data set. So I can press 10 here, and then it will show the chart for the entire data set. So that basically shows each date with the charts for each one, including the legends here with the colors, so it's easier to understand. Now, nice thing about Matplotlib is I can always zoom into these, right? And I can see which is which basically, right? So I can just color codes it all anyway. Right, so I can close this one down, and then in the end we can just select 11 to end the program, and it gives you a little icon there, and then you can say goodbye and have a good day. Okay, so all of this stuff is going to be done through Python and Pandas, right? And basically the stuff with Python that I found is quite useful is if you're using the similar version as mine, then you will get the similar results because Pandas has been updated and some of the things might be changed here and there. I'm not sure about the new updates, but I'll give you the version that I'm using at the moment, so that way we can follow along and make the changes and get the desired results that we need. Okay, so this is my version at the moment. So as you can see, I'm using Matplotlib 3.7.1. Pandas, I'm using 1.5.3, and I'm using the 3.8 Python IDE or Python's interpreter for this project. At the moment, I have my data set here. I've got the version to show in a Explorer with CSV editor. Yep. Okay, so this is the CSV data. So you can download the CSV data from the link in the video description here. And as soon as you download it, put it into the folder where your Python script is going to be, so that way you can read it. Okay, so don't try to put it inside a separate folder, otherwise you'll have to give the full name of the location for that file. Right, so to begin, I'm just going to create 2 files here. I'm going to call one, say, practice.py. So this one here, I'm going to show you a little bit of snippets on how these things work, and then we'll create the actual program. So we'll call this one, say, data analysis, and then .py. Okay, so data analysis.py is going to be the main program that's basically going to have all the user interface and everything else, and the practice one will play around with the snippets, so that way it's easier for me to demonstrate what it actually does before we use it in the main program. Okay, so in the practice one, first of all, we're going to say from pandas. Sorry, import pandas as PD, and then import matplotlib.pyplot as plt. Okay, so we're going to need both of these, so that's all we're going to use. I'm going to copy and paste this to this one as well, and we're not going to be using anything. Okay, so just to start off, let's say for example I make a just to read the data set, I say df equals to pd dot read csv, not read sas csv, and then right here I need to give the location of the data file that I'm working with, the data.csv here, and then right after that, so right now that will load up the data file to a df, which is a data frame now, right? And then I can just say print df like so. Right, so and if I run this one, let's see what comes up. There you go. So at the moment we are reading the data set right here. Okay, so you can see the indexes and everything else that is on there. All right, so long as we are reading it, we should be able to work with it as we do. So the same line here I can probably use in my dataset one as well, because that's going to pretty much have the same thing there. Before we move to the practice one, what I'll do here is we'll do some of the global variables stuff that we actually need. So right after that one, I'm going to create another one called program running is equals to true. So basically it's just a Boolean that's going to be used in the while loop, right? And then what I need is the names of all the products that are, or the produce that's in there. Okay, so I'm going to say produce, or just product name. Names is okay, and then we are going to call df, which is the data frame, right? And then inside the df we need the produce header. Okay, if I keep this one open, it might be easier to explain this. Okay, so as you can see, the header for this one is called produce, right? So what we need is we're gonna aim for that one, okay? And then we'll say values dot to list. Values dot to list. Okay, so what this is doing is basically taking all the names from this column here and it's adding it to this list here. Okay, so this is a list item, the product names. Okay, and if you want to see what it does, then we can just say product names here. Okay, let's run this one. The moment you can see all the product names are being printed. Okay, so, and then we can use a linear search when users are typing in a value. We can use a linear search in Python to compare against to see whether that particular item exists inside of the list here. It makes life a lot easier that way. Okay, second bit is going to be for the dates. So for the dates, we just say dates is equals to, once again, df, but we're not going to aim for a specific column. We want all of them, right? So in pandas, we can say columns dot to list. Okay, so what that does is going to take all the columns, including the produce one, and it's going to add it into a list. Okay, so let's go ahead and put that inside of here and try to run it again. Okay, so now you can see all the columns are there. So the produce 01 all the way to 09. Okay, now what we want is we don't want the users to enter any sort of word when they're entering the dates and stuff like that. So to compare against this list, we need to remove produce from this list. Okay, to do that, we basically going to literally go to the dates and then say remove. Okay, and then let's find produce. And then let's remove that because we want to only keep the dates inside of this list, right? And if I run this again, you can see before we showed produce, now it does not. So the produce has been removed from there. So produce was basically the first item that got removed. We basically just search for it and remove it from the list. Easy peasy. All right, so far so good. Right, I'll keep this one in a, delete that actually, we won't need that. Okay, so we got our variables now that we need. Okay, so time to now create some of the empty functions that we are going to need for this project. So first function we're going to need is a function called display option, or options, display options. We'll just pass for now. Another one we're going to need is a one called show full dataset. We'll pass for now from that one as well. Then we need another one called switch, sorry, not switch, sort dataset. Okay, so this one is going to sort the dataset between alphabetical and alphabetical order, whether ascending or descending order. Okay, and we also need something called a switch inside. So this is basically going to be a Boolean. If it gets passed in true, we sort it ascending. If it passed in false, we sort it descending. Okay, let's make another one called show average. Let's pass from that as well. Def, and then make another one called show total. Okay, so if you're worried about the pass keyword that we're using, is basically just symbolizing that this function is empty. We're going to remove that and then add our own instructions to that later on. So it's not doing anything specific, it's just basically saving us from having an error inside, because if we remove that line, then it's going to think this line is the child of that function, right? So just by adding that, we are saving ourselves that. That's sort of like, you know, seeing the errors on the screen. Okay, and then after that, we can have the, oh, sorry, so then we do a def product name dates. Okay, and we'll pass into that one as well. So what this one is going to do is going to take in a argument for name, start, and end date, right? So this one here is basically going to be called when we want to search for items, whether it's with the dates or whether it's with the names. Okay, and then we need another one called make charts with transpose. Okay, and another one for make charts without transpose. We just call it make charts, to be honest, instead of saying without transpose. Fine. So that one is going to be used to make it with the transpose option, and then the other one is just going to do it normally. So we can explore both how to do it in Matplotlib. Okay, and last function we're going to need is going to be a def called capture user input. Okay, so that's basically just going to capture the user input for the item name, start date, and end date. Now we can actually do the while loop. That's pretty much going to show all the options or capture the options that the user is going to enter to go to the different values, right? So we're going to say while program running. So that's the boolean that we created before, right here. Okay, so that's set to true. So that's basically going to mean the while loop can run. So first we're going to say display options. So we're going to display our options here first, which is empty at the moment. And then we'll say user input. Okay, user input is equals to input. And then in here we can say enter a selection. Okay, let's leave a input. Okay, enter a selection. And now depending on the selection that the user enters, we can do the if statements below for the user input, right? So now we can say if user input is equals to say 1. Okay, the user has inputted 1. Then we know with that we're going to show the full data set, right? So we can just say print. Okay, the full displayed below, right? And then obviously we can just say show full data set. Just run the function, and then that should do that part for us. Okay, second one is we're going to say elif. So we're branching off from the if statement to else if. So if the input isn't 1, so now we can say if the input is input equals to 2. Okay, so in this case, we are showing all the product names in ascending order. Print. Product names in ascending order, and then we can say sort data set. So in this case, we can pass in the value true for this one. Okay, so then the switch is true. If it's false, then it's going to be descending order. Okay, and then we can say elif user input again is equals to now is 3. And we can say print descending order. Okay, and now we can also run that same function and then just pass in the value false. Okay, with number 3 done, let's go with and do number 4. The user input equals to 4. Now in number 4, we're gonna show all the product names, right? So we can say here print all available products. Okay, and then right here we're just gonna basically print product names like so. Okay, and then let's do another elif here. Say user input equals to 5. So print all available dates. All available dates are, okay, and then we're just gonna basically print the dates. Pretty similar to what we've done a little bit earlier. Now we're gonna go into where we actually create the where we ask for the user to basically enter a range of dates. So we can say else if user input x equals 6. So right here we can say print. So inside of this one, we're gonna say basically enter range of dates to search. Okay. Now, if you remember from the beginning demonstration, you saw the icons that was basically being used there. The icons we're going to be adding, those are basically Unicode emojis, emoji types, and I'll show you how to add those to the Pandas Python terminal. Okay, so once we got the product slightly working, and then we can start adding the emojis to the terminal. So just to make it look a little bit better, slightly more graphics is always nice. Okay, so for this one, we're going to basically say capture user input. Okay, so this function here, later on, what we're going to do is we're going to add some arguments that we need for this one, right? So we're going to need 3. So for one for the item name, one for the start and end, and sorry, one for the item name, and one for start, and one for end. Okay, and this one basically going to run a while loop inside of it, similar to this one, to run through the whole thing. So let's finish the while loop, and then we're going to go and make the changes that we need to make. Okay, so let's do elif here. The user input. 7 print enter item name, item name, start date, and end date to search. Okay, and then once again we're going to run the capture user input here, and we'll add the arguments later. And then we're going to basically say if user input equals to 8. So if we press 8, then we want to say show the total, right? So okay, and then here we're gonna the show total function, and if user input equals to now 9, and say print showing average sales per item, and then we run the show average function, and if here user input is equals to now 10, so then print the chart for the data set, and then we'll run the make charts with transpose for this one. And then lastly, we'll just say if user input is equals to 11, then we'll just say print bye and have a good day, and then right after that we can just break. So the break is basically just going to break this loop. Okay, so this is pretty much it for the main while loop that we need. All right, so if I run this one, all right, so right now it says enter selection because obviously the display option is empty. So if I press 1, full data set, 2, name in ascending order, 3, name in descending order, 4. Okay, so right there it basically says function name, product names, dates. Oh yeah, so instead of that one, it needs to be product names, no product name and dates. Product name, product names, Okay, let's run this again and type in number 4. Okay, 4. So we have all the available names there. 5 for all the dates. 6, enter dates to search. 7, enter item name, start date, end date to search. 8, showing total. 9, showing average sales per item. 10, chart, and then 11 is goodbye and have a good day. Great. Okay, so I think our while loop is now done. Great. Okay, so we can actually start with the display options function here first, right? So this one is basically going to be a bunch of print statements. That's just going to lay out the options that we have, so the user knows exactly what to press and what to do. So, but right now it just basically says enter selection. Unless you know the code, you won't know what to enter. So if you give it to the end user, they need to know exactly what kind of things that they can enter, so the program will respond accordingly. Okay, so right here I'm going to say print. Say choose an option from below. Okay, and then what I can do here, I'm just gonna duplicate this line. So in Visual Studio Code, you can duplicate the line simply by pressing Alt Shift and down, or Alt Shift and up, and it basically just duplicates that line for you. And enter 1, and then after 1, I'll do 2 dash or minus signs and say see the whole data set. Okay, I'm gonna duplicate it again. So I'll do the brackets again here. Okay, and then in here say sort item names in ascending order. Duplicate that. This one's going to be spelled that wrong, didn't I? ASC, yeah. Ascending order. So that's going to be number 3. Sort items, item names in ascending and descending order 2 and 3. Okay, good. And then number 4 is going to be show all available products. Okay, and this one is going to be show all available dates. That is number 5. And for number 6, going to be search let's say search date range for all items. You can search for a start date and an end date. And then 7 is search item name, start date and end date. Okay, that was specific to an item. Right, let's go to number 8 is show total a chart. Please show average sales of item in a chart. Number 9, and then 10. Show chart for entire data set. Number 10, and then number 11 is going to be exit the program. Okay, so right now we have got our display options function finished. So I'm just going to run it again. Let's see if it actually shows up here. All right, great. So we got our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, and then obviously we can choose our 1, and then as soon as we do that, it basically does the thing, and then it runs the function again. Okay, got 2, 3. So if you wanted to just see some values now, it actually shows you the values there, and then it runs the program again. Okay, great. Okay, now with the display options done, we can actually do some of the functions that we need for this program. So the two of the easiest functions is going to be the, show the full data set and sort the data. So to show the full data set, we basically just need to write one line of code, which is going to be print df.toString, right? And that's basically just going to list out all the available information inside of the CSV. And then after that, to sort it, we have a switch option here. So to do that one, what we'll do is we'll create a copy of we'll just create another data frame inside of here called sorted df is equals to let's say df like so dot sort values. Okay, and inside of there we're going to need to give the name of the column that we want to sort, right? So the column is produce. Okay, so that's the name of the column, and then after that we're going to say ascending to switch. Okay, so that's the value that's being passed in from there. Okay, and you'll notice that there's a couple of things that happens when we do this stuff. So I'm going to do that one in the practice one, so it will make a little bit more sense, so that way we don't have to go through the menu all the time. Okay, so let's say for example I got this one now set to true, so I want to make it so it goes into ascending, and then I can just print sorted df.toString, so it prints everything. Okay, so let me just run that here. Okay, so once you see that one there, so it is sorting it, so apple, avocado, banana, and then you got your watermelon. But then you notice that all the index numbers here are all scrambled now as well, because the avocado was number 11, banana was the first one, and then you had kiwi, honeymelon, it was number 10, cauliflower was number 15, right? So all of these ones are basically kind of scrambled, so we just need to reset the index so it goes from 0 to 1. So just in case in the future, if you want to make a chart out of the sorted ones or anything like that, you can do that with the following way. So basically what we're going to say here is basically sorted df. Soft. Sorted df is equals to sorted df like so, and then we just basically say reset resample, reset index, and then put in a drop is equals to true. Okay, so if I end this one and then run it again, okay, so now as you can see it's been sorted, but at the same time it's also been the reset the index value. So he sorted it out and then he assigned a new index per item. So we can also save this one and then create our own calculations or any sort of matplot if you want to do that. Okay, and then if I change that to false and run it, okay, you'll see the watermelon comes first, and then also this one's reset the index value to as well. Okay, so I'm just going to copy this line here for now. Go back to our main program, close that down. Okay, and then that's being dropped as well now. Okay, so at this point, two other options for us should run perfectly fine. So first one is seeing the whole data set. So right now the full data set displayed is below and is showing the whole thing, apple, banana, everything else. And then now if I say sort items order in ascending order, I can just pick two. Staying in ascending order. I don't think I ran the function just yet. Oh yeah, that's because it's not printing anything. It's doing it, but it's not printing anything there. Okay, so we just need to print it again. So df and then toString. Okay, so once that it prints, then we should be able to see it on the terminal. Okay, so that's number 3 or number 2. Number 2. Let's try number 2. So now we sorted it in alphabetical order, and then number 3 is sorted it in descending order in the produce name. Okay, great. Right, so I'm just going to end at that one. Now let's do the show total and show average functions. So for these two, we're going to need to understand, well, briefly understand how to use iLoc inside of pandas, right? And let's go back to the practice script here right now. So, okay, so let's just do a quick iLoc. So the loc and iLoc is used for selecting data inside of the data set. So you can basically search for the columns, the rows, and so on. Okay, so to the way to use this one is I'm just going to do in a print so we can actually see the values coming up. So say df the iLoc, right, and then it goes into a square brackets, and inside of here I can basically say let's say 5. Okay, so let's take a look at what this code does with the data set. So at this point I am selecting grapes because that's 5, right? So it goes so this one has been sorted in ascending order, but that's perfectly fine. So if we were to say, print the data set as well at the same time, df.string, okay, and then we can just go and say 0 to, so number 5 is grapes there, okay? So it's basically selecting just grapes. Now if I go here and say 5, and I also want 7, oh 6, let's try 6. Okay, and there's a thing there that's probably going to help us a little bit as well. So it's still selecting only grapes, it's only selecting 5. The reason being is because iLoc is the last digit there is an exclusionary digit, so that means it does not go equals to that. So between 5 and 6 it will not go equals to that, so it will basically stop at 5. Okay, so this one is the inclusionary, that one is the exclusionary one. So if I say number 7 now, okay, it should give us the 2 values that we're asking for. So it gives us strawberry, and then it gives us, sorry, grapes and then strawberry, right? So number 5 and number 6, but we are asking for up to 7. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind, because a lot of times we try to do calculations from the beginning to the end of the rows or the columns, right? And then we use iLoc, but only to realize that it's the last digit is exclusionary. Okay, this is the way. The first part of the problem is to obviously select the different rows that we're after. Okay, so we can select the rows, but there's also another one that allows us to select the columns. So if we leave that one blank, do a comma inside of here, so that's still a column there, right? And then right now we can select the columns that we want, right? So to do a calculation between all of these columns, we basically need to calculate everything after the first column there, and then from there all the way through from 1 to 9. So we're basically going to calculate the values for each of them and show another total or show an average sale section or a column here. Okay, so to do that, we basically similar way that we selected the section before. We can basically, for now, let's just say from 1 till 3, right? So I want the column number 0, which is produce, and then 1 till 2. But remember, it does not go up to 3, so it will not show this column. It will only show these 2 columns here. Okay, let's see if it works. Okay, so as you can see here right now, so it's gone from 0, 1, 2, and then it does not show the number 3, so it does not go above. Sorry, my bad. I thought I was counting the index as well, so it does not go. It's not going to go over number 3. Okay, so it shows these 3 columns. Now, if I change that to 1, okay, then it's only going to show the dates columns there, and that's literally what we want. We want to be able to escape the product one for now, right? And then we can just move on with the other ones that has got a number in it, because the product ones have strings which we cannot calculate with. So we just want to make sure that we have all the numbers that we can add together to, and then show the average or show the total on another column. Okay, so one of the things to also note is that, say for example, if I go from number 1 to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? So I type in 10. Okay. Now it's giving me all the way up to 9, right? Okay. So a lot of times you will not know how many numbers to calculate from, but if you want to just keep it to pandas to calculate from the number that you want to start to the end of the columns, right? So all the columns that you want, so from the number that you start all the way through. So if we start with 1 and then we want to get to 9, instead of typing in 10, that gives us all of it we need anyway. But if you leave it blank and then play it, right, it will give us up to 9, because what it does is that if it knows it's blank, then it will go to end of the data set. So let's do the code here first, and then we can copy and paste the code over to our main program once it's done. Let's create another data frame called df2 df.copy. So I'm just going to create a soft copy of the original data frame because we're going to be creating another column. I don't want to add that to the original data frame. I just want to keep it separate from that. Okay, so we're going to say df2, and then to create a column, we just give it a name inside the square brackets called total sales, right? And then outside of here, this is where we're going to use the iLoc. So we're going to say df2.iLoc, right? We want all the rows, okay? And then from number 1 row, which is the first date, 1st of January 2023, all the way to the end, okay? And then outside of that, we can say sum, and then we want to basically run that sum function is going to add all of it together, and this is axis 1, axis 1, right? So that's basically going to total everything and then create a column, total sales. Now after that, the reason I'm creating a separate copy of it is going to make sense now, is because right now I don't want all the information from the original data set to be inside of this one. I just want the name of the items and the total sales to show, right? So I want to say df2, right? So I'm going to take all the values from that, and then I'm going to do two square brackets, right? So 4 square brackets. They produce, so I want the name of the products, and then total sales. I just want these 2 columns to be inside of this one, right? And then after that, we can just print it. Print a df2. Okay, just a df2.toString. So that way we can actually see what's it doing. Okay. So right now, as you can see, it's calculating. It's created a new column here, and then we have got a banana, apple, kiwi. So everything's been calculated to a total for all the dates, right? And then it's showing you up here. So right now, if you want to see how it actually works with, let's say for example, between 8 and the last one. So okay, so see the numbers, the values will change accordingly. Okay, I'm just gonna keep it as a 1 for now. Let me copy all of this. Then we're gonna go and pass it into the show total bit. Okay, and then we also need that. Okay, that's just to show the total, and we also need to make the charts below. Okay, we'll do that later. Okay, so now that we have the total, the average one that we're going to do will be done in the same way. Okay, so in the average one, we're going to say average sales, right? So it's going to still calculate the same columns and same rows, except for sum is going to be mean. Okay, so mean to calculate the average, right? And then obviously we're going to say in this one, average sales, right? Okay, so if we run this one, it's pretty, it'd be nice if one thing solved everything, but as soon as you run it, you'll see that this actually created it's done the calculations for us from 1 till 9th, and then it's found, like, we're selling 245 bananas in that 9 days, 307 apples, 239 apples, right? And then we can make our adjustment to the company and the sales and stuff like that through there. But I don't want to show the decimal points, right? So we kind of want to round it up, right? So if it's like, say, 244.6, it should be really 245 instead of that, or 261.7, it should be 262. So that way, it's a round number, so that there's no need for decimals, right? So you can't really have a 1.2 decimal of a banana or an apple or something like that, right? Because produce items are sold as a whole. So we need to transfer these into integers. The average sales column, we're going to make that into an integer and then display that. Okay, so let's say df2. So right here, we're going to say average sales, right, equals to, let me just copy that actually. Right, so average sales, and then I'm going to do the round. Okay, and then also as type. Okay, and then right here, I can pass in the integer. So it's going to be converted to an integer type, so that way you will not have any decimal points in the columns, right? So if we run it again, as you can see, it doesn't have any decimal points there, and it's been rounded perfectly fine. So 245 instead of 144 there, and then this one should be 262 tomatoes. There you go. Okay, so that gives us like a nice round number for the average sales that we need without needing to use decimal points. Okay, at this point I can copy all of this into this part, so we know that that part is working. Okay, and then after that we're going to say here and then we'll add the charts when we actually get to it. Okay, so now that we finished these two, let's just give it a quick run and see if they're working. So search, show all available ones, show total, and then show average. So 8 and 9. So number 8, number 8. Yeah, so it shows the total, and then number 9, it shows the average sales of each item. Great. Okay. Right, so now we're going to go into basically, I think the biggest one is going to be the user capture function. So the user capture function kind of gives us the value that we need to search for the item, search for the start date, search for the end date. So after that one, we can pretty much come back and do this one here, I believe, right? So with that done, we can move on to the next bit. Okay, so the user capture one is going to take in 3 variables here. Let's say on item. It's going to be from start and then to, and now each of them are going to be booleans. That's basically going to be passed in through the while loop, right? So we're going to run into a bit of a problem here when we do the user capture one here. Okay, so I'll show you how to use that a little bit later on once we actually get to the part about running the program. Okay, so here we're running a while loop with one boolean expression. It's just basically checking if this certain item is true. But you can also run while loops with multiple boolean options or expressions, right? So here we have three of them. We're going to pass in the true, 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 or false, true, true, right? So basically we are going to need the start and the end, but sometimes we might not need the item name, right? So to do that, let's go ahead and make the while loop. The while on item or from start or to end. Okay, so if any of them is true, right, then we're going to basically just run the while loop. The first one is we're going to say item name is equals to, we just passing an empty string. Okay, so if the we're going to, because this item name here is going to be passed into that function there. So if that value is empty, it's going to basically throw up an exception error and stuff like that. So we just keep an empty string inside, so we can pass in something so it doesn't have a null value inside of it. Okay, and then inside of here you can say if on item. So that means we need the item name, right? So if we need the item name, then we're basically going to say item name is equals to input, and then inside of here we're going to say enter the item name. Okay, and then just give it a space so it's not right next to it. Okay, and then we're going to basically need to capitalize the names of the items. So if you notice, the names of the items are, the first letter of each word is capitalized, right? So if I come back here and delete all of this for now, let's just say item name is equals to watermelon, right? So I just, it's just a lowercase, all lowercase one. Now if I say item name dot title, like so, and then I print item name here. Okay, let me just run this one. Sorry, I think I'm mistaken that one to, I have to do an item name. Oh, yeah, there we go. It's not really changing anything there or saving anything. Okay. Here we are. So item name at the moment is, this one here is showing basically, lowercase, because that was what was run before, and now it's moved to the uppercase one. Okay, and I can do similar things, like say for example, I can change this one to say welcome to, or something like that, right? And then if I run it again, okay, it's just going to basically change the first letter of each word to capital. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. So any word that is entered, and so we can basically just change it to title, so that way if the first letter of the word is capitalized. Okay, so item name is equals to item name dot title. Okay, that basically solves that problem. And then lastly, we also need to find the item inside of the list, right? And to do this, we basically can just do a linear search in Python. We can just say if item name in product names. Okay, so if the item name exists inside the product names list, right, then we can just say print, right? We can just say item, let's say plus item name plus is found. Okay, so you found the item inside the list, and then we can just say on item is equals to false. So we don't need to, it's been found, so we can just skip that and then move on to the next query that we have from there. Okay, and then right here we're gonna basically, I'm gonna leave room here and then explain what I'm doing. Okay, so if the item name is not found, we don't want to jump to to enter the start date and the end date, right? Because if the item name isn't found, there's no point entering the dates and then for the whole thing to run again. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to manually set the from start and to end to false. And then that's basically until the item name is found, until a valid item name is entered, then we move on to the next bit. Okay, so here we're going to say item name plus is not found. Try again. Okay, and here we're going to just say from start is false, and then on end to end is also false, right? So we can just set that. And now once that one is found, then we can just basically say from start, we can change that to true. Okay, so if that's been found, then on item is done, and then we can move on to the from start bit, which would be perfectly fine for us. Now next bit is going to be from start. So in this bit we can say if from start. Okay, so if from start is true, so which is going to be once the item names is there. Okay, so if from start is true, then we basically say start date is equals to input, let's say enter the start date. And also what's good is if you can give the user the format of the date that you're after. Okay, so the date format here is 03/01/ and then 4 digits for the year. Okay, so we're going to say dd/mm/YYYY, right? So that's pretty much the one that we need, right? So that's the format that we're after. And then after that, we can just give it a space here, so it's not too congested when the user enters the information. Okay, after that, we're going to say if start date in dates. Once again, linear search, right? So you just going through the list and then seeing if the value that was entered matches with any value inside of the list, right? Inside of the list of dates. And this one here, just a quick reminder, is that one we removed produce from there. Okay, so we got all the dates there only. Okay, so after that we're going to say print. Okay, and then I will just say whatever start date is, start date plus, let's say here is valid. Okay, and we'll add our emoji and stuff like that later on once we get to a working level for the project. Okay, and after that we're going to say let's say from start now is going to be false because it's already, the condition's been met, so it doesn't have to be true anymore. Okay, and then to end we're going to say to true. Okay, because at this point, although it is true there, right? If the item name doesn't match, it's being set to false. And also, if we can't find the start date, we also want to send it to false because we want the user to enter a start date before they can move on to an end date. Okay, so at this point, we say else. Okay, we just say else here, and then we'll print another one. Say, oh, sorry, start date plus is not valid. Try again. Okay, and at this point, we're gonna say from start, we're gonna set that to true. We want that loop to keep running, and then to end is going to be false, so we don't want that to run just yet. Okay, all right, so now that is done, and now let's do the end. Okay, so if to end, okay, and then we say end date. Now, end date is going to be for the input. Okay, and let's say here enter the end date once again, y, and this be that one. Okay, so now that we have end date, and if end date in dates, once again a linear search, and then we'll just say print, okay, end date plus is valid. Okay, so that we know it's valid. Okay, and then obviously we're gonna start. One other thing I think we need to do here is going to be to create an index. So okay, so let me just go back to the practice one here, and then I explain what is it that we're doing. Okay, so I'm just going to create another one called dates. That's a df columns dot values, right? Okay, so values dot to list, and then space remove, reduce, and then I'll just print dates here. Let's see, should read it just fine. Okay, good. All right, so right now that we have our list, right, so just say for example I have something called a start date here is equals to, now mind you all of them are strings, right? So and then I can just have something like a 04/01/2023. Okay, so we know that this date exists inside the list. Okay, but to do a comparison, now that we are in the end part of this one, right, so to do a comparison with the end date and the start date, we can't really compare the two strings together, but one of the easiest ways I found is to compare the index values of those dates. So if index value, we know that they're all in order, so the the first one is going to be here, and then the 9th is over there. So if the index value is the say for we taken out produce at this point, so this one is 0 and this one's going to be 8. Okay, so 0 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, right? So we know the lowest one is the earliest one and the highest one is the later one, right? So we need to find the index value for each of these items. And to do that, let's just say for the print, right? So if I just print it out, say dates dot index like so, and then I pass in the start date in there. Okay, so we know that's a valid date. We just need to know the index of that date. Okay, so at what index is that one? Does that one exist? So it exists in number 3. So if you go to here, so 0 1 2 3, that is correct. Number 4, right? And then if I change that to say number 6, and that's going to number 5, right? So this way we can actually keep track of what date was entered here, right? So to do that, I missed something here. There we are. So it's valid, yeah, and then we'll create one called start index, right? Is equals to dates, then index, and then we pass in the start date, right? So whatever, as soon as it's valid, we save the reference to the start index variable here that's going to be compared to in the end one here. Okay, and then we'll create another one here called end index is equals to dates.index end date. Okay, so start date and end date are both being indexed. Okay, so what we want is if the if the values are correct, then we also need to make a check to see if the start index is earlier than the end index. So the start index cannot be greater than the end index, basically. So greater or equals to, right? So we want to make sure like it's either a lot later, so at least like one above the start index. So if start index is 1, we want to make sure the end index is 2 or higher. It cannot be 1 again. Okay, so to do that, let's do a if statement here. So say if start index is greater than or equals to end index, right? Then we're going to basically print and say end date cannot be the same or earlier. So let's just put down here end date same or before the start date here. All sort of spelling mistakes, but it's okay. Okay, and then at this point we want to get the user to enter the dates again. Okay, so enter start and end date again. Okay, and in this point we say from start is equals to true, so that runs again, and then to end is also equals to true, so that runs again. And to end, oh sorry, I just set that to false for now, because once the start is set up, then it's going to set that to true anyway. Okay, and if the dates are perfectly fine, then we can just do an else and say to end is equals to false. Okay, and obviously at this point we need to run the function, the product name and dates. Okay, the product name and dates, and we pass in the item name, in the start date, and then pass in the end date here. Right, so if all of this is perfectly fine, that's all goes through. If not, right here we're going to basically say print end date is not valid. Try again. Okay, it's got it's a little bit of a long function with one big while loop with a bunch of statements inside, but it's kind of the thing that we need. Otherwise we would have to create 3 separate while loops for each of these conditions, and obviously once one of them is not met, then end that and then move on to the other one. Whereas in this way we compacted it all into one big while loop, so it kind of does everything that we need. Okay, time to test it out now. So in this case, number 6 is only asking for 2 dates, right? So we don't need the item name. So the first option is going to be false, because first option is called on item, and then second 2 is going to be true and true, right? Okay. Number 7 is asking for enter item name, start date, and end date to search. So it's all going to be true here. Okay, so it's all true. All 3 of them. All right, great. Okay, let's go moment of truth. Let's go try it out. So end date is not valid. I missed something here. I did. Yep. Plus. Okay, here we are. Hopefully that solves that problem. Okay, so number 6. Let's try number 6. Okay, so it's asking me to enter the start date. Okay, so if I enter a random number, it says it's not valid. Enter another start date. So it doesn't go to the end date. Basically, it's asking me to do a start date 01/01/2023. Okay, it's valid. Now it's asking me to do the end date. I can't get out of here without entering a valid end date 04/01/2023. Okay, Now it's made a problem here. Supposed to be, oh, I made a mistake there. And this is supposed to be start index, not start date. Okay, yep. So if you've done the same as me, please change that to start index and then end index. Okay, so otherwise it's comparing an integer to a string, which is a no-no. Okay, so let's try that again. Let's try, which one is it? Number 7. Yes. So okay, now it's asking me for a name of the item, so I go to watermelon again because it's got 2 words, and then I just want to see if it finds it in there. And then as you can see, item watermelon with a capital W and an M, capital M, is found. Now start date, okay, 01/01/2023 is valid. Say 01/01/2023. So okay, so end date cannot be the same or before the start date. Enter valid. Great, that's working nicely. 23 and 02/01/2023. And then it basically just runs the function, which is empty at the moment, and then we go back to our options, which is great. That's working just fine. Okay, so at this point we need to do the product names and dates function. Now here we used iLoc before, right there. Okay, and to do conditional searches we need to use something called a loc. A iLoc is an integer search basically, right? And a loc, you can search for a specific item with the name, and then you will find the item, and then it show everything else. Okay, so let's just go to our practice one here. Let's do some bits here to find out. Okay, I'm going to call it df2 again. Right, so in df2 we can do something like this. So say for df.loc, right? So inside the loc one, I can go ahead and basically look for something, right? So say for example I want a specific name from the produce list, right? So I need to basically at this point I need to do a bracket, a small bracket here, okay, and then go back to the df again. That's the data frame, okay, and now I can access the column. Okay, just keep an eye on the brackets that you're using. So loc, square, parentheses, and then square brackets again. Okay, produce. So at this point inside the produce I have that, and then I can say equals to. Now here I can add a item name. So right there I can just say name like so, right? And let's call it apple. Okay, and then I can pass in the item name here. Great. So now item, my spelling's all over the place today. Okay, and then now if we print df2, let's run this one now. So as you can see, it's returned apple with all the values here. Okay, so it's returned from produce, we look for apple. So if we change that to say orange, same thing again. Okay, now all that is great. Now once we add another variable to this problem, it becomes a little bit more complicated. So now that we know how to search for the item, right? What if we wanted to search for the item and the data range, right? So this now becomes a little bit of more of a problem, because in the iLoc you can give the row and columns, but you can't give 2 or 3 different values into it, right? So let me just show you what I mean. So right now we have the name on there. I'm just comment that out. It's still on the screen. Let's do another df2 here. So df2, then df loc, right? So inside the loc, we similar to iLoc, first one is for the rows, and then you have the start and the end date, right? So I'm just going to put in the string here. So say 01/01/2023 to I need 05/01/2023. Okay, and then notice that's df2 there, and I can just print that value. Okay, so it's giving me everything from 01 to 05. Okay, because it's searching for these 2 strings there, and it's finding that, okay, you got these 2 columns. All right, let's print everything out. Something very important is missing here because we don't have the producer's name, so we have no idea what values these represent, apples, bananas, oranges, what have you, right? So to solve this problem, we need to reinsert. So at the moment, we're working with a data frame called df2, right? It's taking just these values and saving it inside of that. So what if we can insert the column for produce? So that way that, that part of our problem will be then solved, right? Let's say df2.insert, right? So right now we need to insert a column. So in here, you can see that it's asking for, you can enter a location, column, value, right? So what we need is the location first, is because at this point, let me just show you this one here. So at this point, we want to insert that before this one here. So we want to insert it at 0, right? We want to insert it before that, so that way all the values represent the items inside of the data set. Okay. So to do that, we're going to have to say insert to 0, right? So we're adding it there. The column name is going to be produce. Okay, we know that. And then the value, we need to run the loc again. So you can say df.loc, right? And then inside of there, we're going to basically ignore the first part and then just go for the produce. Yeah. Okay. So now with that inserted, let's try to run it again. There you go. So now the produce has been added to 0, right? So the 0 position on the data set, and all the values are representing here is correct. Okay. So let's say banana first was 278, right? So let me just find banana here somewhere. Banana, yep, first was 278, the original number. Okay. Yeah, cool. I can close that one now. All right, so now we have the name added, right? And we have the date for it, okay? But then what we can do now is we can also uncomment this part. So later on, if we want to just get the range of the dates and the item number, we can do that afterwards. Also, I can just create another data type called df3, and then this one here can be df2, because df2 does have a produce now, okay? And then if those are the data ranges that we need, okay, I can just replace that with df3. So right now, oranges is going from 01 to 05. Okay, great. Okay then, so let's start with the function actually. So we can go to, we're going to need these 2 lines. Okay, let's go to pass. Let's indent you in here. So this part here is going to be the start. Okay, and then this part here is going to be the end. Right, so that's the start and the end that's being passed in from the capture user input. Right, and then we also adding our last bit there. We can do a total as well on here, but I'll just comment this one for now. And then, okay, so at this point, we're going to say if name is equals to blank, right? So if we chose to do only the date searches, the name will be blank because that's what it starts off with. In that case, we basically just need to print, df2, right? And then, do the chart. Right? Then do the chart here. Okay, and obviously if it's not blank, right, then we can do the search for the items that we need. So in that case is we're going to need this line here. Okay, and that's going to be name, not item name. All right, and then obviously we're just going to print df3 and then do the chart here afterwards. All right, so let's try to run this one and see if it actually works as it's supposed to. So number 6, so search for the range of dates 0101 2023, 0301 2023. Now I'm expecting to see the product names with the 1, 2, and 3, right? Okay, so there you go. So we have our product names, all the product names, 1, 2, and 3 columns with all the values inside of it. Great. Now let's do number 7. So we will add a name here. So say pineapple, right? So we find pineapple here, 0101 2023, and then say 0301 2023. Okay, there you go. Pineapple is number 7 on the list there. Yep, and 481226371. 481226371. Okay, great. So now we're going to close that. And if you also want to add, like, let's say for example, we just need to totally out, right? So then we can just do the similar thing that we done before with the total, like before right there. Okay, df2, just copy that actually. Okay, great. So you should have a total for each one now. So move that up here so you can see this line. So just want to check it with your own code. Let's check with number 6. Same dates again. 23, 0301, 23. Okay. So it actually gives us another extra column here called produce 01, 02, 03, and then total sales. So at this point, I think we're pretty much done with all of it, except for the charts and the emojis, right? So let's do the chart first, and then we can move on to chart with the transpose one. Okay, so we're just going to say chart df. So that's going to be another data frame. Okay, before I forget, so this one is going to basically take in a data frame as an argument, right? So it's going to be passed in and then created a data frame.copy. So it's just going to be creating a soft copy of the data frame that gets passed in. So that way we don't make any changes to it. So this is where I jumped into some of the problems that I had initially, because we need to set an index value for the charts that we need. And then after you set the index value to make any changes afterwards, Pandas doesn't like it. So by creating a local copy of your data frame, and then obviously it gets discarded after it's been used, which is then you can just create as many as you want and set the index value as well as you need to, because we're making a couple of changes here where we can see the whole thing, see part of the thing, see one row of the thing, right? So it's probably this is the better way to do this one. Let's go with chart df again to chart df dot set index, and then the index we want is the produce, because that's the product of, and that's the whole data set values, right? It's about how many apples and oranges that this shop or this warehouse has sold. Then we go to chart df dot plot. Okay, and we want kind is equals to bar. Okay, and then after that we're going to say plt.x dix. We want the rotation to be 30. Okay, and then plt legend. We will add some values to be after we see what it looks like. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here for now, and then what we'll do is we'll take a look, see about what it does. So one button chart would do for now. Okay, so here we can say make charts like so, and then I can just pass in the df2, which is the one that's being created here. Okay, right, so df2, yeah, that looks about right. Let's try that. Okay, so the total one, make a number 8. Okay, so function has no attribution, set index. And let's see what the issue is here. Oh yeah, sorry, didn't copy it properly because I forgot the brackets there. Okay, so to make a soft copy, we're going number 8 is showing the names and the values, and here we go. All right, great. So it's basically done. This is the total value for each of the items, and as you can, the rotation is working. It does show the name of the produce and stuff. The legend, I want it to be outside the bar instead of inside, because once the dates, once there are more items inside, it's gonna basically go over the plot, which we don't want, right? So to move it outside, right in the legend here, the b box, and just or2 underscore anchor HOR equals to. So I've done the calculation before. I'm just including it inside of this one, right? So I did some trial and error with this one. 0.02. So I haven't really memorized this or anything like that. So because it worked in the, I just had to try it out to see how to move it outside. Okay, so this is the anchor for the box, and then say loc, all right, is equals to upper left border AX axis heading to 0. Okay, so B box anchor to 1.02 value, and then M1 lock to upper left. So that's where, basically it's going to be aligned to, and then no padding on the box. Okay, so I just want the legends to be outside the plot, so that way it's not taking up any space inside of it. All right, so press 8. Let's see, and here we are. So it basically gets placed outside. So if you have like lots of items there to show apple, oranges, this, that, the other, or the dates, it will not be basically, taking up any space here. Right, so with that one done, let's go ahead and try a couple of more. So let's do the chart for these as well. Okay, so say make charts here. So this one is df2, and this one is here is for df3. It's the one with the search for the names, right? So make charts df3. Okay, and we still got to make chart with transpose. We'll do that later on after we try out this one, if it all works fine. I believe there was one where show the chart. Yeah, make the chart. We transpose this. So number 10, we can say make charts first, right? So this is df. Basically, this is the unfiltered data frame. So the entire data set, basically, right? Okay, so we can try that. I'm just using the make charts one. So this one is without the transpose. All right, so we can try that for now. So if I type in 10, I just want to see what it looks like. All right, not bad to be honest. It's got banana, apple, oranges, and then as you can see, the legends are outside with the colored. So it's got the dates there. Okay, and I'll also show you another way to transpose it, so all the dates come on the bottom here, and then all the item name gets sent over here. Okay, that looks nice. Let's see if it works with the date range. 0101 2023 0401 2023. Okay, that's perfectly fine. It's actually showing us. So the purple one is the total sales, because we are doing the total for each item. So each item does have a total as well. So these are the 4-day sales, and then this is the total of those 4 days, right? Okay, it works quite nicely. Number 7, let's try apple. 3, say 02, 01. So apple. Okay, so there's the apple, 2 days, and then the total. So blue, yellow, or orange, and green. Okay, great. That actually seems to be working quite nicely. So, I mean, this is the second solution that I found to the problem that I was facing, which was to create a chart where the values that we actually need is actually on the columns. So the input of all of it need is in the columns. So to do stuff like this is one way to do it. And another way I found is to do with, they call it transpose. It's actually really simple as well. So I can do it literally here. So I'm going to call this one, say for example, again, chart df. I can just copy and paste these actually, to be fair. Let's do that. Better that way. Okay, we pass in another data frame as well. Data frame.copy. In place to true. Okay. Okay, so the reason we're doing here is in place is kind of important, especially when you're using transpose, because we want, even if the program doesn't return anything back to pandas, we don't want it to throw up an error. So basically what it says is like it's just going to change the behavior slightly instead it's basically going to run with the modified underlying data. So the transpose is going to change some of the columns around, and its return value is slightly different than what it used to be. So we don't want it to basically, throw an error to say, some numeric values are missing or something like that, right? And I'll show you why both of these situations work in a minute, because we're going to run it with it and then we'll run it without it to see what kind of errors that we face. Because if you know the error messages, then you can, in the future, hopefully when you see it, you can quite easily go back and change it, and you will know exactly what you changed and why that particular thing needed changing. Okay, so right after that one, before the kind bar bit, we're going to say chart df is equals to chart df dot t. That's literally what we need to do here. So say transpose, right? And just to show an example of this one, yeah. So say for example, I want to transpose this one and say df3 is equals to df3 dot t. So I'm transposing it, right? And then I can just, this is after it's been transposed. So basically it gets swapped, right? So before, I want to print before and after. So print df3 before is, and then print df3 after. So at this point, df3 is just one row. Okay. All the column names basically becomes a column on its own, and then all the rows underneath the values becomes the second column. So that's why we're using transpose, right? So by using transpose, we can actually flip the chart that we need. Okay. So if we try this one at this point, I'm going to try it with, we'll put that one with the average. So we'll be showing the average there. We can put it with that, and then you can see what it actually looks like, right? So the charts with transpose, right? And then we can pass in the df2. So this one is charts with transpose there. So let me just run this one again. So show average is number 9. So if I run number 8, okay, this is what the chart looks like. Okay, so where you have your total sales, and then you got your item names and everything else. And then if I run number 9, basic non-type attribute t. I kind of done that wrong here. That should have been one line really. I did a equals there. That should have been just one line here. Yeah. Let's try it again. Let's see, so number 9. Okay, so now it's been flipped over. So instead of average sales, so average sales is there, and all of our items is showing up on here. Now for the average sales, I prefer the one without being transposed, because then it basically has the names of each of them underneath, right? But for some of the other ones, it does make sense to have it as transpose. So this is why I'm doing 2 of them instead of just one. We can just say this one here is make charts, right? Then average sale and total sales basically just need to look like this, because that way it makes a lot more sense with the data, right? So you've got your name of the items plus the actual bars that's representing them. But then when you go through the search bit, right? To do the search here, to make chart with transpose, let's say for example, and then make chart with transpose. Okay. Then instead of having the dates as the legends, we can have the item names as the legends and the dates as the values, right? So in this case, I can just go to number, say number 6 here. Between the days 0101 2023, 0401 2023, and then the values here. So the dates are on the bottom here, and then you have got your items right there, and then all the totals for them is showing up as well. Okay, and then if we search for the item name, in this case we can search for, let's say, orange. Orange is found 0101 2023 0201 2023. Okay, so you got your dates show up and the total. So I think, it's got a pros and cons on both ends, but in this case you can actually find out what it does. One of the things I want to show you is the error message that you're going to get if you don't use in place. So if I remove that one from there for now, for example, we're just setting the index. We've done this before in this function, and I will run it. And because making with the transpose is, I think it's doing it with the number 6 here, so I can search for the dates, and it's using the transpose one there. 23. Okay, so there's no numeric value. Okay, because the data that's been passed in has been modified, and then Panda doesn't want to run it because it's been modified. So if you put in, like, say for example, in place equals to true. Okay, so that's with the transpose one, right? So if you run it with the in place is equals to true, then we run number 6 again, 0, 1, 0, 1, 3, 0, 2, 0, 1, 3, and then it just runs just fine. Okay, so that's the solution I found to the particular issue that I was facing. All right, so at this point, we've pretty much done with pretty much all the functions that we needed to do. So if you're interested to know how to do the Unicode, stick around. Otherwise, you can, obviously Pandas is far more important than doing the Unicode bit. But Unicode is always nice to know about, how to do it in the Pandas terminals. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and delete this one for now. We won't need that either. Okay, so Unicode. Okay, so the Unicodes are basically like these, right? So these are little characters and emojis that we can sort of use inside of a terminal because they do have a code that represents them inside of there, right? So you can have lots of these different crosses and greens and so on, right? Sort of ticks and stuff like that. So just to make things a little bit more interesting, and it makes for, like, you want to have a little bit fun with the terminal, I suppose, because terminal is command line interface. It's always the black text, also the white text and black background. But sometimes it's nice to know that you still have the capability to add stuff like this into it as well. So we'll just pick any one of them at random. So let's say, for example, I pick there's actually a cheeseburger there. Okay, yeah, sure, cheeseburger and the pizza, cool. So I'll just pick that one for now. So this is I think this is a 32-bit Unicode, right? So if I go back here and just say burger, like so. So right now we have this number, but we don't know what to do with this number, right? So to show in Unicode, I'm just going to go and print, let's say burger here. It's going to obviously throw an error at the moment, but to show in Unicode, right, we need to wrap it inside of a quotation. So I'm going to make a quotation mark around it. Okay, first. All right, and then I need to do a /, right? So, oh, sorry, the backslash. Okay, not the forward slash, the backslash. You keep it as a capital U, but then you can get rid of the plus and add 3 zeros to it. Okay, so what that does then is it's able to decode inside of Pandas. It's able to decode that particular piece of string into a character because the character is already built into the system. Okay, so if I run this one now, let's see what it does. So there you go, you have your burger. And I want to do a pizza. I'm just going to go ahead and select the pizza one. So pizza one is right there. Okay, once again, same thing. I'm going to wrap inside my quotations there and then change the plus to 3 zeros. Oh, don't forget the backslash there. Okay, and then I can just do print pizza. There you go. So we have a burger and a pizza inside of the terminal. Now there are 16-bit and 32-bit ones as well. Some of the 16-bit ones that already been deconstructed. You can pretty much use that one. Two of them that I'm using at the moment are these two here. So I've got the right symbol, the wrong symbol, like so. Wrong symbol, and then right symbol. So just to provide like a feedback to the user when they got something wrong, when they got something right, or whatever you write. And then I'm also using the search, chart, and a goodbye symbol as well. I'm going to close that for now. So right under our global variables there, I'm just going to copy and paste all of my Unicodes that I need. Okay, so I have the right symbol, wrong symbol, search symbol, chart symbol, and a goodbye one. Okay, so do that, I need to do basically, I'm just going to replace a bunch of the stuff in the display option first. So I need to add the search symbol so the users know those options are there to search for something, right? So I'm just going to replace that. Basically just says that, you know, you search for an item. Okay, search for another item there. Okay, so search symbol, so that's the search symbol there. It's just basically like a magnifying glass. After that I have the chart. Okay, so I'm just going to paste that here. So basically the quotation mark ends there, plus the symbol plus, and then the quotation mark starts again with the rest of the word. Okay, so show the average chart there, show the final chart here. Okay, and then lastly exit the program. Okay, I'm just going to exit the program there. Right, so basically just the stuff that you can see in the terminal basically, right? So if I run this now, you can see that that magnifying glass shows up, charts are showing up there, right? And then the exit program as well. Okay, so I can exit the program. Right now, nice thing about these is you can also use them inside of the actual where you capture the user input from, right? So I'm going to take the search symbol, for example, and put it inside of the, we'll be searching for the item names and such, right? So over here, I'm just going to paste it there. Okay, so you know, you got your search symbol and then enter the name of, you know, enter a date or enter a time, enter an item name. So I'm going to enter that for the start date and then the end date as well. Okay, so start date, end date. So it just should show up with a magnifying glass to say that, you know, you're searching for something. Okay, and obviously if it's not valid, once it's valid, I'm going to show the right symbol. So the item's been found, right? So item has been found there. So on the right symbol plus item name. Okay, same thing is for the dates. So right symbol, I can add a empty string here, plus I want a space between the start date. So start date, oh, this is not valid, sorry, I'm entering the wrong place there. This one is valid. Okay, so this one is where the start date is valid, I'm putting the right symbol in there. This one is where the end date is valid, I'm putting the right symbol in there. And then also I need the wrong symbol. Okay, to do that I need to do this as well. Okay, so where the item name is not found. Okay, so here I can say wrong symbol plus empty string, like a space, and then the item name. Okay, same thing happens at the start, so not valid. So we put the wrong symbol there, wrong symbol, right. Okay, right symbol is for the right one, and then right at the end, we put the wrong symbol there for that one. Okay, and then I think the last bit is the goodbye bit. Goodbye is going to be inside the while loop right there. Okay, the goodbye plus, right? So it's got a space there already. Okay, so we got our symbols in the right place just to test it out now. All right, so let's test it out. So say number 6. As you can see, it says enter with the finger. I'll put in the wrong one. Doesn't mean that I've got it wrong. I'll put in the right one. It shows a nice little green check mark there. That's always nice to know you're doing it right. So sort of like a feedback. Our charts are working just fine. Let's go to 7. In the wrong item name. Pineapple. Okay, yeah, it finds it. Very good. 3 0 2 0 1 2023. That's great. Okay, that's working just fine. Show average, show charts for the entire one. Number 10. Yep. Yeah, that's good too. I mean, you can also do that one with the transpose, so the item names are showing up on the side instead of the dates, right? So transpose there. Okay, so just go out here again. We'll close this one, so it starts again. Okay, so now let's do number 10 here. All right, and then it starts up, and now you can see all the product names are on the side and all the dates are on the bottom here. Okay, so at least you have got 2 ways to do this program now. And then we've got number 11, which is for exiting the program. Now it's giving you a little wave and say goodbye, have a great day, or have a good day. Okay, I think that would do it for today. I know it's been a bit of a long one with this one. I've been meaning to do this for a bit, but I just didn't quite get the time and kept changing a lot of the stuff in the program. If you found this useful, like, subscribe to the channel. This one was helpful, and I will see you on the next tutorial. Take care.